So just, I want to make sure you're all done before I respond to it.
No, just wanted to say that even then, I would still want you to point out, even at the hospital, something that you did that made you stand out on when actually taking a leadership role. But you already answered it. You said you did it because it was a motivation to get in college.
Exactly.
Which means it was
I'm being
about
very
you.
honest about that. But
everything has been about you. So as a veteran,
let me tell you something. I appreciate
it's very hard for me to follow leaders that make everything about them. So you might want to work on that because it's a lot of veterans and Republicans. So you might want to work on that talking point and maybe do some volunteering while you're on the campaign trail. I'm going to give it back to Charlemagne and Envy.
Okay. Check this out. This is why it is so important, okay, that when you go, when you're running for president or any seat that is important, you are not trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, okay? Because there's a lot of Americans out there, there's a lot of stupid ones, okay? But then when you run across the one person who's not buying your BS, who will challenge you, who will question you, and if you're not prepared, if you're doing this for the grift, if you're just doing this to build up your resume, be like, I ran this successful company, I ran for president, I accumulated this many, points, what I'm saying, just to make themselves look good. If you're that person and you running across the wrong person, you are going to have people laugh at you. Who is this guy? Vivek Ramaswamy, the dude with the haircut. He's running as a Republican, and once you see his face, I first seen him when he was doing this woke campaign with these right-wing commentators, and he blamed Black Lives Matter for him dropping out or resigning from his company. I just had to just hear that, and hey, you're an idiot, you're a clown, get out of my face. Now I guess he's running for president. So this interview he did with the Breakfast Club was his biggest mistake. You do not walk in, okay? You do not walk in a place like that thinking it's going to be a walk in the park. Even though they're DJs and their personalities, their hip hop personalities, he must have thought this was going to be a walk in the park. I'm just gonna say some fancy things. I'm gonna walk in with my fancy suit, with my haircut. I don't know what he got going on up there. He walked out knowing, don't do that again. You just made a clown out of yourself. So without further ado, let's go ahead and watch this back and forth interaction, and let's have that conversation. All right, so I don't want to bore you guys with watching this. Well, it's not boring. It's 42 minutes, and I kind of want to get into the meat and the potatoes of the interview. To be honest, probably the first 20 minutes was just a bunch of fluff. You know what I'm saying? He's a really good talker. He knows how to answer questions that I'm pretty sure he was prepped. And if you're not careful, you will buy into it. Like, I can see why he was a successful business person. I can see if I didn't know better, I probably would have bought into it. Like, hey, he could actually, as running as a Republican, be a positive force for the community. But once someone who doesn't buy into it and knows how to question that, then it starts to break. Then it starts to crumble. Then you can kind of see who he really is. So, we can kind of get past that. To kind of set this up for you, he's proposing that U.S. citizens, in order for them to be able to vote, they have to pass the citizens test. So, immigrants that come over, if they want to be a U.S. citizen, if they want to consider being a U.S. citizen, they have to pass, a lengthy test, and then they become a citizen. So he wants U.S. born citizens after high school. If they can't pass this test, they cannot vote. So that's pretty much the premise, the setup for this conversation. And it doesn't go well. Like, at some point, it kind of gets a little cringe. You know what I'm saying? But let's go ahead and watch it.
Against people of a different political persuasion that the FBI doesn't like today. I just think it's a formula for corruption when you have unelected bureaucrats that are actually setting policy. But that's a detail compared to my point, which is we need to revive the ideals that the nation was actually founded on and do a better job of aspiring to them.
Now we have Teslin Figueroa. I'm sure Teslin has some questions. Tez, you good?
Yes, I do. So I've heard a lot of, what you think and your vision, and I'm a very practical person, and I want to kind of, opposed to talking about your opponents, let's talk about you for a moment, and let's actually talk about your policy. Explain to me your position on this civic duty voting.
Sure. So my position is, I think that every kid who graduates from high school should know the minimums about the country that we require an immigrant to know about the country in order to become a citizen. So there's a test. My mom had to pass it. Every immigrant has to pass it to this country that asks you some basic questions. What are the three branches of government? What branch of government does the U.S. president lead? Some basic questions about what is the Bill of Rights. It's like a multiple choice exam, or some of them you write in. I think that if we're going to ask immigrants to pass that test, as we should, I think every 18-year-old who graduates from high school should have to pass that as well, because young people, it goes back to that issue of pride. You don't value a country that you don't know something about. You don't value something you inherit. You value something you have a stake in creating, in building, or knowing something about. So how do we think big about this? Well, young people, as I told you, most of them, very few of them vote as it stands today. Super small numbers. And apparently 60% of them say they would rather give up their right to vote than give up TikTok. Well, I say, all right, let's take that to the next level. How about we do something that raises the voting age from 18 to 20?
Okay, so let me go ahead and throw this in before I lose track, because I wanted to say this at the end of my video, but I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to forget. It does sound cute at the surface, him saying, you can't value something that's just been given to you, that someone just inherited, which I can kind of understand that. But when you're talking about the history of this country and the lengthy, crazy, kind of evil history of this country, a lot of what people inherited now, they do not respect it. If anyone understands reparations and the reason behind why Black folks is asking for reparations, if you understood your history and you valued America today, you would be for reparations. Like, I wish they would have asked them about reparations, because if you don't understand it, if white people, a lot of these white folks don't appreciate the head start that they had, I understand why they don't agree with reparations, because they don't understand their history. So I don't know. That's just, just a little side note, because it kind of ties into what he was
25.
saying.
But you still get to vote at 18. Mm-hmm. If you just pass that same civics test that an immigrant has to pass in order to vote. And tests aren't for everybody, so be it. Then you at least serve in the military or a first responder role for 6 months. That's my civic duty voting proposal. And the reason is, I'll actually make a prediction. I think youth voting in this country will skyrocket. From a very low level right now, it will skyrocket because you value something you actually have to earn. And I think that this is not a left-wing or right-wing point. We all have duties as citizens, right? We aspire to free market capitalism, right? Materialist advance. And that's the life I've lived as well, by the way. My parents came to this country with not a lot of money. I've lived the American dream. I've made a lot of money by building businesses. That's one side of what it means to be an American. But part of it is we also have duties to this country.
And just a side note, damn, I know what you're gonna say. Hey, Superior, just let the video play. But guess what? This is my channel. I get to do as I will. But just a side note, he's saying that if he implemented this new rule, youth energy and voting will increase. Well, what about when Bernie Sanders ran? Didn't that? I mean, do we have to look at the numbers? I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. I'm just saying, even Obama's run, I think it was an increase in a lot of categories. So I mean, like, come on. If we just had actually favorable, likable people run that actually ran on popular proposals, then we might actually see some of these young people and other people who normally wouldn't vote voting. But just making more roadblocks and now you got to pass another test. I mean, I didn't like school. Now you want to add another roadblock. And historically speaking, roadblocks has never worked for disenfranchised people. Now you want to add. Okay, I'm gonna let it finish. Okay, let's go.
And I think the more we wake that up, actually, the voting age only became 18 in 1971 in the context of the Vietnam draft. So I just think reviving those ideas is going to be good for us.
A lot. So let's prove your point. Nick, our camera guy, do you know the 3 branches of the
Nick
federal government?
over 24, so it don't matter.
But I'm just saying, but nobody knows there are 24. Red, do you know the 3 branches?
Executive.
Well, I got a test. I got a
See what I'm
test.
saying?
I would like to see if you're willing to pass, because I believe in, just as you believe in civic engagement, I believe in changing the ideas of what political opponents look like, what they should look like, or political candidates. Are you willing to take a test with me quickly? Because I just have a couple of questions for you.
I will, absolutely.
So
and the way this is opening up, I have a feeling I'm about to fail it, but that's good. Let's do it.
That's right, yeah. So just for clarity, I am an independent. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. Cool. I think that's important for the premise of the argument, because I know you did a lot of debating at Harvard. I also want to make it clear these are the same questions that I asked liberal Democrat Marianne Williamson. So I want to make sure that we put that out there as well, just to kind of set the foundation.
I'm open to being humbled. Let's do this.
Okay, great. Let's go. So you mentioned, the pride of being an American and how important it is to have pride in this country. I'm also a veteran, by the way, for the United States Air Force. So when is it that you voted for the first time?
I voted in 2020.
Okay, so you're how old again?
I'm 37 years old.
So for how many years you sat around and did not get involved at all in any civic engagement? Is that my understanding?
A long time is the answer. And actually, that's what I wrote this book about. I'm not holding myself out as some sort of model. I'm actually offering myself as a self-reflection of my journey as a citizen to whom this country has given much, right? As an adult, when you have kids, it changes your perspectives. I'm very honest about that. Absolutely.
Okay, no problem. So let's go deeper into the self-reflection. So you've sat around and sir, I'm being as respectful as I possibly can. Please don't take anything
and you don't even have to be. And you don't even have to be. So take it off and let's go.
So you've been sitting around in the country that my ancestors built for about 20 years. Your parents came over as immigrants, brought you over. You made millions, according to your resume, off of this country, and you have absolutely not been involved in civics. 1, not voting, and 2, let me just ask, because I know you mentioned earlier you don't want to sit around at the debate and talk about accomplishments. Let's make the accomplishments pretty simple. In high school, were you ever a class president or take any leadership role? Because your opponent did, Chris Christie. He was the class president. So have you ever taken any leadership at all on anything, or just?
Can I just correct a couple factual things that are kind of important? My parents didn't bring me over to the country. I was born in this country, and I'm proud of that.
No, I know you were born here in Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio.
You mentioned my parents.
I'm saying your parents were immigrants. My apologies.
And that's all right. You said your parents brought you over to this country. I thought I
my
would set that record straight.
I mean, they were immigrants, but let's not go down the water hole.
No. We're not going to water. I just want to correct a couple facts. And then the other thing is,
you were born here in Ohio.
I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's right.
Right. So you've been here your entire life. So the question is. Did you take any leadership role in middle school, high school, class president?
I did.
I know you played tennis. What is it? Explain it to us.
Student council. But, I think that this is Yes, I've held leadership roles over my life, but those don't qualify me to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Okay,
Well, it kind of does. Well, I'm giving the test. I'm the test administrator.
All right, there you go.
So it kind of does, because when you go from saying I want to go to the highest office,
And I'll tell you, I've led companies as well. Is the other leader?
Right,
The main leadership
right,
role I've played is and I want to talk about one early part of your premise that I also want to say, to bring it to the country point. The other point, you use the word sitting around. You know, I'm not somebody who's saying I want the next generation, my kids' generation, to have more civic duties when they graduate from high school and college than I did when I did. That being said, I wasn't sitting around. I've developed medicines, 5 of which are FDA-approved products today, one of which is a life-saving therapy in kids, 20 of whom die by the age of 3 if they're not treated, 70% of whom now live lives of a normal duration. Another one for prostate cancer. So I don't apologize for making contributions. But
right. Well, I don't want you to filibuster that
no worries.
Because
Just
that's not the
there.
question that I asked. And I don't consider, as a veteran, I'm talking about service. I'm not talking about what you
Civic
did for
service,
profit. I'm not talking about what you paid people to do with your
So
company.
I've not served the country.
Because that means
Whoa. Okay, breathe. Time out. Okay, go back to your corners now. Okay. He almost had me there when he was like, "Hey, first off, you lady, I wasn't just sitting around. I've been creating medicine that is FDA approved. I'm saving little babies. Okay, I wasn't just sitting around doing nothing, sitting on my hands." And she said, "Whoa, I'm not talking about something that profits you." I think a lot of people get that for some reason misconstrued right there. That is not service. And I'm so glad she brought that up. That is not, don't talk about your accomplishments that only benefited you. Well, not only benefited, but majorly. Okay, he didn't get a few pennies for that, okay? I don't want to hear about your accolades and your accomplishments that made you money. Talk about the things that you only did that only served others, and you didn't get a dime off of it. You didn't get no publicity. You didn't get no handshakes. You didn't get no award or your picture on a wall. You did it strictly out of servitude. That's what she wants to know. Because essentially, that is what our leaders are supposed to have, that position. They're supposed to be in that position as president, as Congress, as servants to the American people. Oh, we forget that so many times. So every time I hear a politician talking about the great business that they built, that doesn't mean nothing. Would you do it for free? If you had to start over, would you do it for free? And I guarantee 100% they will say no. Because that's unfortunately just a society that we kind of built.
Nothing to me.
You do
what I'm
realize
talking,
she
what
hasn't
I
been
am
able to ask a question. She's been trying to ask a question,
Yeah.
and you've been talking over.
I'm all ears.
We gave you the platform to let you say
It
what
was
all
you said.
defensive.
I'm all ears. No, I was just correcting a couple
She hasn't had a chance
facts.
to
That's
ask
all.
a question yet. Every
Go
time
ahead,
she
Ted,
tries
ask
to
the
ask a
question.
question, you've been cutting her off. Go ahead, Ted.
I'm all ears.
Right. So your question. So my question again is: you're trying to your goal is to raise the standard, and you're saying you want people to believe in country, and you want people to have civic engagement. And sir, I just find it very telling that you haven't had any civic engagement at all, and haven't been at all. And when I say sit around, I don't mean you haven't done anything. I'm talking about in regards to service. Because one thing about political office, the same way that you want to change how people look at politics and look at this country, I want to change how people look at politicians. And when I see that someone hasn't did anything at all to be of service to mankind, to take a leadership role, it's not good enough to just be on city student council. Were you a leader? All of that applies. Have you been able to get anybody in the room at any time, from a high school gymnasium to Ohio, Republican leadership there to now? Have you been able to get anybody in a room to believe in this vision? I don't agree with a lot of your vision statement, but I do know you've been going around having these discussions and getting everybody emotionally worked up to talk about vision and debate. But I want to get to the practical. You're trying to go go from preschool to president of the United States. You're skipping over city council, county council, mayor, governor. You want to go straight to the top. So my question is this a PR? Is this for the PR, the perception of reality? Or can you point to any leadership where you've been able to get people to believe in what you're talking about that they're not paid to do on any of these vision statements that you have? If not, then to me, it's a moot point, because you're holding a standard that you haven't met yourself.
Okay. All right. To save himself from this line of shots, because she ain't playing. She ain't there to hold your hand and have a good time. Like, she for real. Okay, I only seen her a couple times, but she for real. She ain't playing. To save himself, he should just say, no, I haven't. That's it. Now, if you want to add like I haven't, and I failed during that part, but I just want to make sure other folks don't miss out on that opportunity, because I do believe that there's a lot of substantive, knowledgeable wisdom things that can be learned from to serving your community. Just say no. Don't make no excuses. Don't try to. You are not going to win this argument. Just say no. I know it's gonna make you look bad, but brother, you digging yourself a deeper hole is not going to make you look any better. And that's exactly, spoiler alert, that's exactly what he's going to do for the next 15 minutes. Just make himself look even worse. So let's go ahead and watch.
So if you're only going to count government service, you're absolutely
No, not government
right.
service.
Okay.
Student council in the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th. Were you a leader? Did you do anything to rally anybody? Did you fight for better lunch? I did in the 6th grade with Miss Harris. I'm not talking about government. I can go all the way back from the 5th grade every year, sir, because people who are in service to this country, if you're going to go around saying you want people to believe in this country that I signed up to die for, then I want to make sure that you're holding that same standard. So not government, not political. Let's not get it confused. I'm saying, have you did anything of service that we can point to say he is a good leader, like Chris? And I'm not even a fan of Chris Christie, but he was the student council president in high school. So have you done anything of service besides yourself that has not benefited yourself? It's just a simple question.
So the acts of service that I have performed are small, so small that I don't even want to talk about them to boast. But yes, have I volunteered for this country? Yes, I have. I've always been interested in healthcare.
It's okay to talk about the small things.
These are small things, right? But thank you.
Let's just mention
Bethesda North Hospital.
So it's really a no?
No, it's not a no. It's just something I don't like boasting about. I
Well,
volunteered.
we're not boasting. It's an
so
interview.
there
You're
we go.
boasting on your vision and everything else.
I think
you
one of the
boasted
things-
on the millions of dollars that you made. So let's just throw it out. So in
I
6th grade,
actually
I'll give you an example. I'll help you out. In 6th grade, Miss Harris, was slapped. Let me give you an example because maybe you're confused. In the 6th grade, Miss Harris was snatching papers from everybody in the classroom. So me as a 10-year-old, I went to the principal and said, I'm tired of Miss Harris snatching papers. And I organized the students around getting Miss Harris to stop snatching papers. Now, there was a consequence for that. I got suspended for 5 days for talking back, and I got in trouble. I got a spanking, and I was on punishment for months and months. But that is a simple way of organizing people. So I want you to kind of boast about it the way you did the millions of dollars and said what you did with the pharmaceutical companies. What leadership can you point to that you've been able to rally anybody around anything that is of service that you did not pay anybody to do? I think that's important for the next president of the United States.
Sure. So I've always been drawn to healthcare. That's why I ended up founding companies in that space. When I was in high school, part of what drew me into it was that I was a volunteer at a local hospital. I actually became the leader of that group of volunteers that actually discharged women who had recently given birth. That was it. Nothing big to it.
Did you do anything we can point to stand out?
But I want to say something about that, because I say that in the book. If I'm being really honest, why did I do that in high school? A part of the motivation, I'll be just brutally honest with you, was that's actually what allows you to get into a good college when you graduate. Is you want to check the box of community service.
So it was about you.
So there was
an element.
So there's and I'm admitting that in a way that very few other people do. But I got to be honest about it. That was a big part of why I did it.
Yeah, it was about self, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to give it back to the guys. I'm going to be honest about it with you.
Yeah. Okay, now this is where it feels like he's conceding right there. He's like, okay, I did this for myself. Okay. He's down. I at least as a viewer, I'm seeing that he failed her test. He could not answer. He didn't serve his country the way that he wants other people to do it himself. We see that now. But she's just going to stomp him into the ground. She doesn't just want blood. She wants him to beg for mercy. She's just going to keep stomping and stomping and stomps. That's what she's going to do for the next 10 minutes. And he just won't let it go. He won't LIG it. He's just going to keep, I guess he likes the embarrassment. I don't know.
Yep.
Leadership is not about self.
I agree with you on that.
What I just heard is that everything is about you. And to be honest with you, this is just a PR campaign, sir, to be honest with you. And I think you're trying to go further to the right because you want the Republicans to accept you as a man of color. And I think the only way you think you can do that is to be so extreme.
I appreciate your opinion.
With your positions. And I think you need to do a little bit more work in service. I'll give it back to you guys.
Let me ask, because she did ask me a question, and then you guys said you wanted to hear a response, but I think I heard an expression of opinion. So I want to make sure you're all done before I respond to it.
No, just wanting to say that even then, I would still want you to point out, even at the hospital, something that you did that made you stand out on when actually taking a leadership role. But you already answered it. You said you did it because it was a motivation to get in college.
Exactly.
Which means it was
I'm
about
being very
you.
honest about that. But
everything has been about you. So as a veteran,
let me tell you something. I appreciate
it's very hard for me to follow leaders that make everything about them. So you might want to work on that because it's a lot of veterans and Republicans. So you might want to work on that talking point and maybe do some volunteering while you're on the campaign trail. I'm going to give it back to Charlemagne and Envy.
Once I want to be respectful. Want to make sure you got everything you wanted to on the table before I respond to that.
If this was just us, it would be a lot more.
You guys tell me. I'm the guest on your show. You tell me when I'm good to speak.
Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead.
You sure? You sure about that? If we're good.
Yeah, we're sure.
So I think there's a different worldview that we have. And I think the worldview is how one actually makes contributions in a country. I do not believe that there's a separate category of just if you're serving the country and then if you're acting in self-interest, that's somehow sinful or wrong. I reject that vision. To the contrary, I think capitalism is the best system known to man to lift people up from poverty. I deeply respect and I thank you for your service to this country. I'm grateful for it. I haven't served the country in the way that you have. But I think that the way you get ahead in capitalism, how did I develop a multi-billion-dollar biotech company? It was by developing medicines that save people's lives.
A lot of people say capitalism causes poverty.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I disagree with that. I think that capitalism demands that you provide something to someone that helps them more than you're actually charging them for it.
Okay, so and this is a whole different conversation, and I actually might have one of my Discord homies actually have a different conversation with this part here. So, Mr. Eric, if you're watching this, remind me because it's interesting on how he says capitalism is the number one thing that can lift people out of poverty, lift them by their bootstrap. He might as well have said that. So, that's I don't want to go rambling about that because this could be like another 15-minute conversation right here. But he's wrong about that.
That's the only way.
That's
the
a
tried
business
and true
model,
way
sir. That's
it
not
is a business
service.
model. It's not. I'm not
That's
saying
not
it's
service.
I'm saying it's having an impact on society.
An elected official is service. That's the disconnect.
That's right. So
that you're
now,
missing that they didn't teach
I'm moving on to there are phases of our lives where we do different things.
Well, you're moving straight all the way up to President of the United States.
I don't view it as a hierarchy. I don't view it as a hierarchy. I don't believe in hierarchies. The hierarchy is the way the bureaucracy works. I don't believe in so we have a difference in opinion.
You also don't believe in service, and that's where we're having a disagreement.
Well, I disagree with you on that. I just disagree with you on that.
I think it's whack that you're proposing to revoke voting rights for 18 to 24-year-olds unless they meet certain qualifications, but you never exercised your rights.
Well,
so long.
So most young people don't, is the whole point.
Well,
so, Charlamagne, let me ask you a question. Do you think the
largest voter turnouts have been over the last couple of elections, few elections?
They still voted at a very low rate. But let me ask you a question. What do you think about high school students being required to pass the civics test? What's your perspective on that?
The one that you proposed?
The one that every immigrant has to pass in order to enter the country. If every high school student has to pass that before they graduate, what's your take on that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Okay, good. Now let me tell you something about the law as it exists today. Men in this country, not women, but men are required by law to register with the Selective Service, age 18 to 25. That's the draft. We don't have a draft, but men have to register. If you don't, they put you in prison. At least they can. It's a criminal offense if you don't. My view is I would decriminalize that. I don't like the government telling you what you can and cannot do. That's not the American way. But if...
So I hope he's I hope he's pro-choice then. He said, I don't like the government telling you what you can and cannot do. Well, whoa. You're going to be out that Republican Party quick, fast, in a hurry, because that's their number one thing is God, guns, and babies. You don't mess with those three. You know, if you can align yourself with those three, then you're a Republican. But if not, I don't know if he knows who the party he's aligning himself with.
If you want to enjoy the civic privilege of voting, then I think it is perfectly legitimate to say you have to at least know something about the country or have served that country, one or the other. Absolutely. Now, I think that what do we actually care about, right? What do we? I mean, we can do the personal attack thing. We care about the country. We care about the country.
Okay, so remember this moment. He said the personal attacks. He feels like she is personally attacking him because now they're about to get into a big argument about did he say personal attacks. So let me go ahead, jump that back 10 seconds.
One or the other. Absolutely. Now, I think that what do we actually care about, right? What do we? I mean, we can do the personal attack thing. We care about the country. We care about the country.
Cornerstone of democracy, though.
Voting is the cornerstone of democracy. I have not.
Sir,
yeah, that's right. And you know, here's the thing. Here's the thing that's different
sir,
is,
sir, excuse me, because this is important. We have to pause it.
I just wish she didn't cut him off like that because yeah, he is a long talker and he does try to upsell, and it's just like every syllable that's coming out of his mouth. But don't interrupt him because then that just only makes you look bad.
But this is not a personal attack.
That's okay.
This is you, and I know that as a Republican, you are certainly not soft. So this is not a personal attack.
Yeah,
this
I'm
is
okay with
asking
attacks
about.
too.
This is about asking about your background and how it correlates, how it's relevant to saying you're going to serve this country because president is actually.
So I have been an open book in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I know,
Absolutely.
and I'm going page by page.
And I'm saying that I have not.
I'm gonna let you finish.
Yep.
But I want to be clear. It's not an attack.
Okay.
Because you've been an open book, but that doesn't mean I have to like what's on the page.
That's fair
But
enough.
it's not an attack. I'm just reading.
Hey, okay, for the record, I'm gonna steal that, okay? Because when people say I'm an open book, and I'm like, you're an open book, but that doesn't mean I gotta like the pages. Oh my, that is a Facebook quote for sure.
The book.
Yep.
And so when I hear somebody say you need to get to either pass this test or do some type of service to the country, and I spend hours looking, you were in the Phi Beta Kappa. Did you have a leadership role in college, the honor roll? When somebody sets service as the standard and they've done no service except to themselves, that's a fair question. It's a question.
And you just so I've been on the, I mean, look, I was on I was on high school student council. Yes, absolutely.
Were you a leader? Were you a leader?
I was a vice president of my high school student council. Absolutely. I was the president of the National Honor Society. I can go down the list. It's just that
that's what I was asking you to do. Go down the list.
So I was a president of the National Honor Society. I was the vice president of my student council. I was a lead amongst the volunteers at the hospital where I served growing up. I was actually a leader in volunteer research over the summers. From my senior year,
all of that, but you already admitted all of that was to get into college.
Not all of it, but I am admitting it. I think that
I know that's self-service, though. I just do you understand the difference between self-service and service?
I think the reality is, and I think we just all have to be more honest. When many high school students are serving today, not all of them, but I think let's smoke it out. I don't like that structure where we actually mix service with self-interest.
And I don't like the structure of somebody saying somebody need to give service as a veteran. I don't like the structure of somebody going to the highest office of the land and have not served anybody at any time unless it was self-serving. So this is where we just have two different ideologies. And I know your goal was to come here and get into.
Here's my perspective.
That's why we got different perspectives.
Two guys, he got to leave in 5 minutes. I know.
I'll let them wrap up.
Let me just say one thing: is you don't. Here's my vision of the run for presidency, and this is why I say I'm an open book. Is my job is to make sure people in this country know who I am and what I stand for. And I think that very few politicians on either party actually get that job done. So what I say is I'm an open book about who I am and what I stand for. Whether the people of this country want to vote for me, that's their question, not mine. That's their job to determine, not mine. And you're free not to vote for me. I expect you won't, and that's okay. But I'm doing my job in this, in the 3 books I've written over the last year, in the conversation I'm having with you guys, being far more honest than any politician that I know in the last 10 years in this country. And I think when I say we want to fix corruption, you don't know what the first step is? The first step is actually people being honest. So you guys know me. You know what I stand for. I haven't hit back on that. Whether people in this country want to vote for it, that's their choice.
Do you want to unite the country?
I do want to unite the country.
So why is like one of your marquee campaign proposals making sure black people can no longer benefit from affirmative action?
See, here's the thing. It's actually been a disastrous experiment over the last 60 years. I've seen the impact that it's had. Unlike a lot of other executives I've had, senior executives.
Hey, just to set the record straight, like I said, I've done 2 videos talking about affirmative action, okay, and how that has only benefited, and the stats and the analytics prove it. So I hate when people, I hate to go back because, you know, you have one side saying, you know, it doesn't help. Then you have one side saying it does help. It's like, just look at the numbers and just shut up with it. You know what I'm saying? I had to take time out of my precious life to look up this information. I've never attended college and I don't plan to, but I had to look up this information and it's benefited. Okay. So let's just move on from that.
In my company who happened to be black, senior executives in my campaign who happened to be black. I actually went to a majority or close to majority black school 1st through 8th grade. There isn't a single one of those black kids or black colleagues that could not have achieved everything I have in my life. I firmly believe that to be true. And I have seen the unfair discrimination behind closed doors, the things that people will say behind closed doors, about somebody who would have had that position anyway, but was unfairly tarred with the taint of saying they got it because of a race-based quota system. I think that's unjust to everyone across the board. And I think that the right way to do this is actually ensure equality of opportunity, educational access at an early age, which, by the way, we don't have in this country, starting at an actual young age. How about doing that in a way that's agnostic to race? That way we prevent seeing one another on the basis of a color of our skin, but we actually solve the real inequalities that we have when it starts with inequality of opportunity, starting with education. So my view is, I think my approach is actually going to be more successful in lifting up more black Americans than have been the Lyndon Johnson approach of actually using race-based quota systems.
Okay, so let me just add this in there. It's funny how, you know, 50, 60 years ago, black and brown people were being discriminated into getting into these schools, so they had to create the policy affirmative action. Now, in 2023, race is once again being used, but to tear down the one policy that was created because of race. I don't understand. I don't understand how these Republicans get so crafty and so creative on using the one thing that was holding us back, using race to now shoot down something that was created for people who were being disregarded because of their race. It is clever. I got to give him that. That is the most creative thing I've seen in the past couple months.
Supreme Court does rule on affirmative action, and they do ban it. Who do you feel it benefits versus who it hurts?
I think that it helps everyone if they end race-based affirmative action in college admissions. I think it will literally help everyone in different ways because it restores merit in the United States. Are we perfect in ensuring equality of opportunity? No, we're not. The fact that kids are trapped by the zip code in which they're born, determining where they go to school, is a problem, which is why I favor universal school choice in this country, which has actually done more to help black Americans than has any affirmative action program.
What's your thoughts on people saying that you got Don Lemon fired?
I think that the New York Times reported that. I had an open debate with Don Lemon. What CNN wanted to do with that is their choice. My view is, though, we need to start saying in public the things that people are otherwise saying in private. There's a gap right now in the country. Let's admit it. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't
You gotta
matter.
be careful with that because a lot of people in your party gonna start saying nigga out loud.
I don't think so, actually, and I would certainly hope not. I would condemn it if they do. I would condemn it if anybody does. All right, but what I think is we need to close the gap between what people say in private and what they say in public. That allows us to air our differences, and then we actually find unity that way. That's actually what I think unites the country, not creating this culture of hush hush, right? Say one thing in public and a different thing in private. And I do reject Don Lemon's premise. What did he tell me on set? He said, you can disagree with me when you have black skin and you've lived in this country, whatever ethnicity you are. Explain it to me. I just reject that. I think we should.
Sir, let's just use a real example of just what everybody said. You said, people can have difference of opinion. They can have, you want to unite people. I gave you a difference of opinion as a veteran, and you came back and said that I was personally attacking you. And that is a way of gaslighting and basically, trying to set the idea that I was against you when I just had, that's the statement you made. And what I'm saying is, instead of us just having the debate, because see, I didn't talk about colors, which you probably expected when you came in here.
I did not.
Well, that's fine. I didn't talk about color. I didn't get all emotional about your vision, because I really wanted to just talk about what you've done in service, because you yourself has raised service as the number one thing that what people need to do in order to participate in the country that my ancestors built. And you said that I personally attacked you. So just to give you some advice, if you're going to say, hey, let's have difference of opinion, let's be able to discuss.
I loved everything you did. I loved the whole thing.
Because I had a question that it was a personal attack, because it was. I don't think a question. I think this is great, because you know what I said? What's the job? Did you say personal attack?
What's the job is everybody needs to know who a candidate is and what they stand for. That's the candidate's job. Whether you vote for them or not, that's your choice. Did you say I personally attacked you, or did I hear it wrong? I just want to make sure. I did not say you personally attacked me. No, I said we have actual good. I wanted to know whether or not we were actually.
And we did clarify. He did say he kind of said under his breath. So I guess if you wanted to be slimy, you could kind of wiggle his way out of it and say, he didn't say you personally attacked me, but he did kind of put that out there, and within context, he did say, hey, besides the personal attack. So I don't know. I think we're good on that. Like I said, like they're probably gonna go back and forth on that for the last 10 minutes. From the words of Little John, one of the greatest philosophers in the past decade, Little John, from the East Side Boys, okay? He said it best. Don't start none, won't be none. Okay, I think everybody needs to understand that phrase and live by it. But just a couple of things. I don't believe a born American citizen should have to take a test in order to vote. I think if you are of age and you pay taxes, you should be able to vote. That's simple. You pay taxes, you're of age, you can vote. To be honest, he might be doing himself a disservice as running as a Republican. You're going to cut down your base by a large margin because, just a dart in the dark, okay? I would say a lot more Democrats and independents are probably more educated than a lot of Republicans voters. I'm just throwing that out there. Hey, I don't have the numbers to prove it, but just throughout my life talking to a lot of different people, it seems to be pushing more that way. I know I'm gonna have a lot of people mad at that, but by any case, he did not do good at all. At the beginning, he just has that salesman type of vibe, and to each his own. I wouldn't compare him to a Cornel West because he knows he doesn't have a shot of winning, but he's just doing this to build his resume, obviously. He written 3 books in the past year. I mean, just so many red flags. Someone like Cornel West has been doing this since day one. He's been doing his activism a lot longer than I've been alive. Probably a lot longer than you've been alive. So we got to understand this is a total difference between the two approaches. So once again, he failed horribly. You know what I'm saying? So once again, if you think I'm wrong, if you think he aced this interview and you might even vote for him because, you know, you're probably one of those uneducated Republicans, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments what you think. And like always, let's have that conversation.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to join the conversation by subscribing. Make sure to tune in next time, and like always, power to you, power to me, power to the people, power to the pod.